Hello, my name is Helen, and this is my love story with Samuel. I'm 62 years old, with silver hair that I could never keep dyed for long, and a soul that, although weathered by time, still holds space for the unexpected. I was married for 32 years to Walter, a good, calm man who left this world too soon. Since then, my life has become a sequence of quiet, almost silent days, where the biggest thrill was choosing between tea or coffee on a Sunday afternoon. I retired a few years ago and grew even closer to my daughter, Diana. She calls me every day, insists I download apps, watch new shows, try meditation. She says I deserve more. I smile, agree, but deep down I feel I've already lived the essential, that now perhaps it's just about keeping the rhythm, slowly, without major surprises. But life has its ways. It sneaks up on you, turns a corner, and shows you that there are still bends worth taking. It was on a rainy afternoon that everything began. Diana was at my place and saw my old recipe notebook open, with an olive oil stain right on the lasagna page. She looked at me and said, "Mom, enough. You need to try modern life. Let's order a pizza." "From where?" I asked, laughing. She grabbed my phone, installed the app, and showed me how to use it. "There. Now just pick a flavor and confirm the order." It felt strange, I admit, having a little piece of the world in the palm of my hand. With just a few taps, food would come to me. No chopping onions, no grating cheese. Everything seemed too easy. And still, when I confirmed the order, my heart gave a little jump, as if something different was about to happen, as if I had suddenly stepped out of autopilot. In the days that followed, that small act, ordering food through an app, became a kind of new ritual. Not because of the pizza itself, but because of the feeling of allowing myself to learn, even after 60. I, who had always feared the new, started to find a certain joy in stepping out of routine. It was like, each time I hit that confirm button, I was telling the universe, yes, I'm alive. I still want to try. Little by little, I realized it wasn't just about technology or convenience. It was about me, about not letting myself wither into a predictable daily life, about making room for the unexpected, for small adventures. And deep down, I think my daughter already knew that by teaching me to use that app, she was really giving me permission to start over. I never imagined that such a simple gesture could make me feel so alive, but it was right. There, between a slice of pepperoni and another of margarita, that I discovered life, after so many seasons, still holds sweet and spicy surprises. Because in the end, it's never too late to live something for the first time. Before I continue, do yourself a favor. If this story has touched your heart so far, imagine what's still to come. Like the video and subscribe to the channel, so you won't miss any story that just might awaken something sleeping inside you too. That first night I ordered pizza on my own. It was nearly 8. The sky was heavy, and the sound of rain tapping on the window made the house feel even quieter. I sat in the living room, watching the app's tracking screen like a child waiting for a present. When the alert said the order was arriving, my heart sped up in that silly, excited way. I stood, ran my fingers through my hair, and walked to the gate with an umbrella in hand. He got off the bike slowly, took off his helmet with a calm that seemed to match the night. He had a gray beard, light brown eyes, and a half-smile that felt more shy than cocky. He was wet, but didn't seem to mind. When he handed me the box, he said in a steady but soft voice, "Good evening, ma'am. This is the most ordered flavor of the week, but honestly, I make it better." I laughed, not at what he said, but how he said it, with that glint in his eye, like someone who enjoys sparking a smile. "Oh, really? And do you deliver your versions too?" I teased, not sure where that boldness had come from. He smiled, lowered his head slightly, and replied, "Only for special customers." And he looked at me in a way that made me blush, but not uncomfortable. On the contrary, it was one of those looks that don't intrude but embrace, as if he had seen something in me I had forgotten was there. I took the pizza, thanked him, and he said goodbye with a, "Good night, Miss Helen." That made me freeze. "How do you know my name?" I asked, surprised. He nodded toward the receipt taped to the box. "It's on the order, but it fit you so well. It felt like we already knew each other." I stood there, pizza in hand and soul stirred. I went back inside with the strange feeling that this delivery had brought more than food. There was something in the air, something old, forgotten, but now trying to wake up. I sat at the table, opened the box, and as tasty as the pizza was, it felt like my taste buds were distracted. My mind kept circling back to that smile, that gray beard, and that simple way of saying something that from someone else might have sounded foolish, but not from him. That night, I went to bed late, my pillow warm and my heart full of questions. Who was he? Why did he catch my attention? And why, after so many years, did that brief encounter make me feel so alive? I can't explain. I only know that, for some reason I still don't understand, that silly comment, "I make it better," lit something inside me, something I thought time had already put out. But, apparently, the embers were still there, just waiting for someone to blow on them. The next day, I woke up with my mind still stuck on that doorway conversation, only for special customers. It echoed in me like a lingering note, a sound that keeps playing even after the music ends. I laughed to myself, thinking about the way he said it, that restrained smile, and the gray beard still damp from the rain. I spent the day trying to convince myself it was just coincidence, just a delivery. But that night, after a bland soup for dinner, I opened the app again. My finger hovered over the button for a few seconds. "Helen, for heaven's sake, are you really going to order pizza 2 nights in a row?" I said out loud. Like arguing with myself would stop me from doing what I had already decided. I chose the same flavor. Confirm. Done. This time, when I heard the motorcycle, my heart was already dancing in my chest. I pretended to be surprised when he showed up with the box, but my eyes were searching for him even before he took off the helmet. He smiled when he saw me. "Good evening again, Miss Helen. You've got good taste. Second time with this flavor? And is there another delivery guy in town who'd bring it to me with that smile?" Slipped out of my mouth before I could think. He chuckled, scratched his neck, and said, "I'm starting to think you're doing me a favor, ordering just so we can see each other." I turned red like a 15-year-old girl. I muttered a shy, "Don't be silly," and wished I wasn't wearing slippers. He handed over the pizza with that same warm look, but this time with an extra hint, just a bit of playful intimacy. A connection built over a few minutes and 2 cardboard boxes. By the 3rd day, the dilemma was even more ridiculous. Order or not? Was it already too much? I started making excuses to myself. Oh, I could freeze what's left, I thought, and before I could reason it out, there I was pressing the button again. On the 3rd delivery, he arrived whistling. "I'm starting to think this pizza's becoming famous at your house," he said, handing me the box. I laughed, took it with both hands and teased, "Or maybe it's the delivery guy." He smiled big this time, his eyes sparkling. There was no touching, no promises, no hidden notes, just that light flirting, the kind of exchange of glances and words that warms more than the oven itself. I went back inside with the pizza, but it was his scent that lingered in my memory. There had been 3 orders, but it was my soul being nourished. Each delivery brought a new seasoning, not of garlic or oregano, but of anticipation. The 4th time, I swear I wasn't going to order. It was late afternoon, the first clear sky of the week, and I'd promised myself not to turn this into a habit. But then, while wandering through the kitchen, I opened the fridge and saw everything just sitting there. The rice, the beans, the zucchini already a bit sad in the corner. And my hunger? Oh, it wasn't for food. It was for something else. That craving for something different, a warmth that doesn't come from the stove. I lingered, staring at my phone, until I decided to go out and water the plants on the balcony. And that's when I heard the sound of the motorcycle, before I had even ordered anything. I found it strange. I peeked through the gate and there he was. But this time, no uniform, no delivery backpack. Just him, in a rolled-up blue shirt, holding a pizza box in one hand and a dish towel in the other. "Miss Helen?" he called, with that slightly awkward smile, full of intention. I nodded slowly, surprised, but I didn't order anything today. He chuckled and said, "I know, but I thought you should try this one. I made it at home. Thin crust, my own sauce, and a rosemary-infused olive oil my mom taught me to make." He extended the box like someone offering more than just food. "It's not on the menu, just for those who deserve it." I didn't know what to say, my heart racing, my
voices. I'm not here to sell anything, just you might like open the gate. I don't know if it was impulse, courage, a mix of everything I'd kept buried for years. I invited him in. Would you like to? The pizza's nice. Tasty, like, and expect the sweet food.
he stepped inside. The box was still warm, and the smell filled the living room like a good memory. We sat on the porch, and I noticed my hands trembling slightly. He opened the box and, using his pocket knife, cut the pizza, offering me the first slice. I took a bite, and with my mouth still full, let out a sincere, "Oh my God." He laughed, satisfied. "Told you it's better than the one from the app." That pizza, made by him, seemed to open a door inside me I didn't even know existed. The porch, lit only by an old lamp and the soft glow from the living room, became the stage for something I couldn't yet name. The smell of rosemary in the air, the gentle crackle of slices being cut, the sound of our laughter starting to blend like a familiar melody. It was as if time had kicked off its shoes and decided to stroll slowly around us. He told me he'd learned to cook from his mother, an Italian woman with a fiery temper, who, according to him, scolded with a wooden spoon in hand and love in her heart. She used to say the secret to good dough was touching it like you're caring for someone you love. No rush, no brute force, just presence. I smiled, moved by the memory. She must have been wonderful. I can feel the affection in the flavor. We talked about everything and nothing. Books we'd read, songs we liked, and the silence that had accompanied us since we were widowed. Yes, he too. 7 years alone, he said, staring into his wine glass. At first, I thought it was grief, then habit. Now, I don't really know. I nodded slowly. I get it. Sometimes silence feels safer than starting again. The night breeze slipped gently through the leaves, and there was a quiet comfort between us. That feeling of being exactly where you're supposed to be, without needing to pretend. My heart was calm, but awake. I felt something I hadn't in a long time. True presence. That's when he, almost unconsciously, reached out and touched my hand. Comfort during a sensitive moment, like he was just offering. But then, he stayed. And with his thumb, he gently brushed over my ring, an old wedding band that hadn't fit snugly in years, but still clung to my chest from time to time. "Does this ring have a story?" he asked, his voice lower now, like he didn't want to scare the moment away. I looked at him without pulling my hand back. "It does, but maybe now it's ready to start telling a new one." And I smiled. He didn't reply with words. He just looked into my eyes with a tenderness so deep that I felt truly seen, in a way I didn't even remember was possible. That hand, firm and gentle, said everything his mouth didn't need to. There on that porch under a peaceful sky on an otherwise ordinary night, I realized that sometimes the biggest declarations live in the smallest touches, because there are hands that don't just hold you, they bring you back to yourself. His touch was still on my skin when he stood to leave that night. It wasn't invasive. There was no rush, no whispered promises. Just that thumb sliding over my ring and then the silence that wrapped around us like a warm blanket. But something woke up. I closed the door after he left and stood there for a few seconds with my hand on the wood, feeling the warmth of my own body. It was as if my heart was trying to catch up to a reality my senses had already accepted. I felt my face flush, not from embarrassment, but from life, from presence, from desire. A desire I hadn't felt in so long I almost didn't recognize it. I walked to the hallway mirror and looked at myself, not with critical eyes, like I usually did when I saw the wrinkles or the sagging skin, but with curiosity, with affection, like someone reconnecting with a forgotten part and asking, "Where have you been all this time?" I ran my fingers down my collarbone, over the curve of my shoulders, feeling the heat still pulsing there. My body was still alive, and more than that, it was waking up. That night, I didn't fall asleep quickly. I lay in bed, tangled in the sheets, replaying every moment. His laughter, the delicate firmness in the way he held my hand, the way he looked at me like time hadn't placed decades between us, only a few shared breaths, and most of all, the way he never rushed, how he respected my silences, my rhythm. For the first time in many years, my body wasn't just a memory, it was presence, it was desire, and I let myself feel, with my eyes closed, lying there alone but fully accompanied by the sensations he'd left behind. I touched myself gently, without shame, like lighting a forgotten candle, like whispering to myself, "You're still a woman, still touch, still warmth, still tremble." At 62, I rediscovered that desire has no expiration date, that even a time-worn body still longs for tenderness, that skin doesn't forget, it just waits for the right moment, the right person, the right gesture. And that night I knew my inner flame was still burning. All it needed was a breath, and he knew how to blow. The next morning, I got dressed with a new lightness. I looked in the mirror again, and for the first time in years, I saw beauty where I once only saw routine. Not because someone said so, but because I felt it. In his touch, in the way I was seen, in the way my body responded. Not to haste, but to tenderness. That was it. It was the tenderness that awakened everything. And inside me, something had already changed. More than alive, I was rekindled. Like an old oven that, with the right heat, starts cooking up new memories. And new desires, too. Sometimes I wonder how it all began. And then I remember, a pizza, that simple, a delivery made through an app, on just another evening, and a man with a gray beard who smiled at me like he recognized a familiar soul. And you see, I wasn't expecting anything. At 62, I'd convinced myself that the big emotions were in the past, packed away with photo albums and Sunday dishes. But life, oh, life loves to challenge certainties. Today, when I think of him, and I think of him often, I realize what enchanted me wasn't just the kindness or the flavor of his pizzas. It was the way he looked at me. Like every wrinkle on my face told a story, and not one of them pushed him away. On the contrary, it was like he was saying without words, all of this is part of who you are, and that's exactly what I love. Falling in love after 60 isn't like in the movies. There's no background music, no fast-paced montages of holding hands on the beach. It's more like tea that gets better as it cools. A warmth that starts slowly but lingers long. It was realizing there was still room for a good morning, with a kiss on the forehead, for a genuine "how was your day?" and even for a shared silence. Not awkward, just presence. I learned that loving at this age is like caring for an old plant. You know you don't have to water it every day, but you understand exactly when it needs light or shade. I learned that love doesn't have to be urgent, but it does have to be real. And that there's nothing more beautiful than someone choosing to stay after they've already learned how to be alone. Of course I was scared. Scared of seeming foolish, of giving too much, of getting hurt again. But the biggest fear, I admit, was feeling nothing at all, of getting used to the absence. And that fear, he took it away. With a pizza, with a touch, with the simple act of showing up. If I could go back in time, I'd tell myself, Helen, don't close the door. Leave your heart slightly ajar. Even just a little, because sometimes love comes in quietly, carrying a warm box and a gentle smile, and that's when it surprises you. Today, I don't want a movie love anymore. I want the kind of love that sits with me on the porch, that listens to me complain about my knees and still thinks I'm beautiful. I want the kind of love that knows my silences, my quirks, and stays anyway, because now I know. True love might not be the first, but it's definitely the one that shows up when you've stopped expecting it. And chooses to stay, in generous slices, the kind that feeds the soul. If this story stirred something in you, a warmth in your chest, a lump in your throat, or a sudden longing to love again, then do one thing for me. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share it. Because there are so many people out there who need to remember it's never too late to feel alive. And maybe, with a single click from you, this story will reach them too.